Good afternoon. If we could ask everyone in the back that's going to join our meeting to take a seat, or if we can conclude your side discussions. We're going to call the Board of Adjustment to order. Let me first announce that all decisions of this board are considered final. If there's anyone aggrieved by the decision of the board, they may appeal to circuit court within 15 days of the board's decision. Also, no permits or license can be issued until that 15-day appeal period has expired and no appeal has been filed. For information regarding the board's decision or an appeal to circuit court, the Office of Land Use Administration will be your contact. As you come to the podium, I'll ask that you give your name and address for the record, and if you will, direct your comments or statements to us and not to others in the audience. I ask that you respect each other. If someone's making a statement, that you don't make a motion or sound in the background otherwise. If you've got a cell phone or electronic device, I'd ask you turn it off or on silent so we don't have a disruption. Same for the board. And I remind the board members to turn their mics on when they speak so that it can be heard by the audience and our staff. All right, first let me do roll call. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Golden?
Here.
Mr. Metcalf?
Here.
Mr. Milling?
Here.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
And I'm William Guess. All 7 members are present. It takes 5 members to affirm a motion, either in support or opposition to a variance request. The agenda's been provided to us by staff. Chair entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. I have a motion to adopt. Do I have a second? Second. All those in support of the agenda say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The agenda is approved as presented. All right, we'll go in order, starting with the holdovers. Application 6409. This is regarding 2662 Fillingham Street.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has provided the staff with a site plan that complies with the minimum parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. Therefore, there is no required action by this board.
Okay, so the application's actually withdrawn.
Correct.
All right. Was anyone here in the audience for this application? Other than the applicant, possibly? All right. We'll move to the next application. I want to make sure everybody had a chance to depart if they needed to. My understanding, your application's withdrawn based on the fact you met the requirements. The site plan's been provided. All right, thank you. All right, good luck to you. Have a good day, sir. All right, application 6429, 6368, 1409 Greenbrier Drive. Good afternoon. Your name and address, please.
I'm Janelle Miguel and 1409 Greenbrier Drive, Mobile, Alabama, 36605.
Okay, and the staff's recommended your application be denied. Do you want to tell the board why we should consider otherwise?
Okay, I'm currently a family home daycare provider, which qualifies me for a maximum of 5 kids in my residential home. A few months back, DHR granted us permission to require a group home, which will be the max of 12 kids in our residential home. Therefore, the fire department and a few board of the city of Mobile met with me on October for a pre-development meeting, and the requirements to get a group home will be the same as the requirements to turn my home into a commercial daycare. So what I'm asking the board is to grant me permission to have a use variance to use my residential home as a full-out daycare, which will be a commercial daycare, because the requirements for the group home and the commercial is just the same. And I had a meeting back in February where I was approved for a group home, and I had it expired because of all the requirements that was given to us back then, which required us to do the fire sprinkler, the hood vent range, which had cost a tremendous amount of money. So now they kind of pulled that from the requirements, and I'm able to meet these requirements now.
Okay. Do you have a comment?
I wasn't aware that the fire department had altered their minimum standards, but that is outside of the purview of this board.
Correct.
Any variance that the board approves will still require fire department compliance, and they determine what that would be.
So, my understanding, you're asking for a commercial daycare, not a group home.
No, back in February, like I stated, you guys did approve me for a group home, but being that I had my pre-development meeting, I asked the question, will it be the same difference if I wanted to just go full-out commercial? And the requirements would be the same as if I'm going into a full-out group home. So that's my question.
Okay, I was just clarifying that you're
Yes,
not,
sir.
you're not setting up a group home, you're setting up a daycare.
Yes, I just want to go ahead and convert it full-out to a commercial, what will be considered a commercial.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant?
Just so I'm clear, and if you do that, the maximum of kids is 12?
Per the fire department, what she stated to me was the max will be based on my square footage of my home. So whether I do a group home or a commercial, the fire department will still grant me for the commercial spacing.
Has there been any opposition from the neighbors at all?
We have none on record.
Okay.
Any other questions of the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, because
Yes.
I think this is to Mr. Milling's question, what are the maximum number of children you will have in the home?
The fire department haven't came out yet, but she said based on the square footage and the amount of square feet you need per kid, that will give me the max. But under our requirements, I will have to be required to follow the steps of a commercial daycare, meaning the fire department doesn't have a quote
Right.
group home daycare, so therefore they're requiring everything to be commercially.
Okay, I understand that. With your state license, what will the maximum number be?
Okay, well, the maximum number, if I chose the group home, it would be 12. Now, if I want to, like I'm asking today, to transfer my residential to a commercial, it'll be per my square footage of my home.
I understand, okay.
Okay, so I think Ms. Pappas' question is, did you kind of have a goal of a number of children in mind?
I was thinking I was gonna stay on the 30. I have a 4-bedroom home, and like I asked during the pre-development meeting, I would rather move out and use that home as my business entirely.
Okay. All right. Once again, any questions of the board for the applicant?
I do.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think I'm just confused. It seems like to me this variance request is changing from a request to allow, from 5 children to 12 children, to now a use that is a commercial use surrounded by residential houses. And so I don't know, how do we do that? I mean, that's not what was advertised, is it?
We can't really do that. The law requires that what is approved has to be noticed. And this application on the staff report says a maximum of 10 to 12. And now she's here saying, I might have up to 30. It's an unlimited number or an unknown number. And a neighbor might have been happy with 10 or 12, but 25 or 30, the neighbor's going to say no. So y'all could vote today to allow what she applied for, which is 10 to 12.
That was on my
Wait a
last
minute,
application.
in a single-family residential district. But anything more than that, she's asked for, yeah, her narrative in the staff report says maximum of 10 to 12. And y'all could approve that if y'all so desire, but anything more would have to be either a new application or withdraw this and hold over and but she'd have to amend the application so we could do another proper legal notice. But I can't see voting for
First of all,
25 or 30.
This is Mr. Anderson. He's our
Okay.
legal advisor.
Okay, my first application that I did back in February did have 10 to 12, but the application I just put in recently should have been a different narrative. It's not, that's the old one.
Okay.
I see the reference to the old application, which allows up to 10 to 12, but the current application didn't give a maximum number.
No, I didn't give a max, but I just asked to go commercial with, because I don't know the max. The fire department will actually give me the max.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of the board? All right, if you'll have a seat.
I have
Okay.
one.
Oh, wait a minute, we have.
I have one.
Yes.
What is your timeline to, I say, increase your number?
Well, I don't have a timeline, but I have spoke with architect and have everything in place. So as soon as I get approval, I have all my ducks in a row, basically to say that I'm ready to get it started immediately.
So you don't have a waiting list of applicants?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you, one follow-up. How many children do you currently have?
I have 6.
You have 6?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would it help to have the fire department weigh in and give us a number so we're not guessing?
Well, I think should we approve something, it would be pending their approval. And conditions of, fire code and such. Do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this application in support? Anyone in opposition that's here? Okay. Margaret, did we have any communications? Ms. Pappas? Did we have any communications either in
No,
support or
sir.
opposition?
We did not. There was nothing loaded in the portal, nor did we receive any email correspondence.
Okay. I have one follow-up question for you, if you may. How long have you been in business with your current 5 or 6 children?
July of next year will be 3 years, but I've had a total of 15 years daycare.
Okay, yeah, sometimes, it shows a history that you've been in business without any complaints or
Yes, sir.
issues with the residents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I guess I have a question.
Yes,
In light of the country, the mix-up that we have here as it relates to your intent, if this was to be held over, would that impede anything on your part?
What do you mean? I'm not.
Will that stop your plan? Can we, if we held it over and gave you an opportunity to regroup with staff, would that be helpful to you?
I mean,
Because-
that could be helpful.
Because what I'm hearing right now is that we can only go with what you have with the 12 max.
Yes, but like I said, I don't know the max because the fire department is not gonna come in until I get approval. So I wouldn't know a max either way until the approval or denial has been set forth.
okay, so the fire department stated that they would only come in after?
Yes, once I get my approval, then after I do all my requirement for a commercial, then she will initially come out and, make sure everything is where it needs to be, basically, and give me a number.
Okay, all right. Any further questions? All right, thank you. I believe this will conclude our public hearing on this application.
Mr. Chairman, legal counsel and I were talking, and I'm hoping I can provide a little bit of clarity. The applicant currently has a home daycare at this location where she's limited to 5 children. She obtained approval from this board in February as a group home daycare, which allows up to 12. That, of course, group home is a status assigned by the state that licenses daycares. One of the conditions of that, of course, is approval of the fire department. The fire department, in reviewing these requests, it doesn't matter what status per the state classification is being assigned, the requirements are going to be the same. You need this many, you need to be sprinklered, you need to have a commercial exhaust hood in your kitchen, you need to have exits, etc. I believe what the applicant is saying is since the fire code compliance requirements are the same, regardless of whether she goes with a state group home classification, which caps her at 12 children, or the state commercial daycare classification, which caps the number of children as allowed by the fire department when she brings that structure into commercial compliance. It's essentially, she is requesting to have a commercial daycare in this home. And the fire code is going to dictate, as she's requesting, the maximum number of children.
And I'll correct myself. I was reading the narrative in the staff report where it said provide for a maximum of 10 to 12. Now that I hear what Margaret has said, and I look on the first page, the variance request is for a commercial child daycare, which by definition is up to the fire department. So she has applied for that. I didn't realize in reading the narrative the difference. But with that, with what Margaret just said, then I'll withdraw what I said earlier as far as y'all cannot vote. Y'all can for the commercial daycare if that is, by its definition, has not a, does not have a maximum to it. It's to be determined later, really.
Okay, back to your statement, Margaret. Ms. Pappas? Yes. So currently, she's approved based on her February variance for 10 to 12?
Technically, no, because she didn't file an extension and it expired in August. So the board has this request in front of it. The prior request has expired. The board can approve what's requested or approve something lesser.
Okay. All right. That concludes, once again, the public hearing on this application. Staff's recommended for denial based on some information we've been provided. The applicant was provided a variance request approval back in February for 10 to 12 for a home-based daycare with 10 to 12 as the maximum. They are now asking for a commercial child daycare, which would be subject to the fire code review and compliance with all other ordinances. And so with that, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
question for council.
Yes.
Doug, in light of what you and Margaret just said, could we approve the application but limit it to the 12 where she has now, and that will essentially give her back what was approved and what has expired?
You could cap the
And that would
max.
essentially be the same thing. It would just be classified different, but it would be the same as what she previously asked for.
Correct. Yeah, you can cap the number before the fire department makes that decision.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion to approve it, subject to a cap of 12 students, if that's what
Okay.
you want to call it.
Excuse me, with compliance with all
Yes.
other city ordinances and
Yes.
codes? Okay. Have a motion to approve with a limitation of 12. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Have a good day. Thank you. All right, we're on application 6430, and this would be Jeff and Mary Ann Harrison. Good afternoon, your name
Hey,
and
how you
address?
doing? Robert Dewitt Construction.
Okay, and this application was also recommended for denial. would you tell the board why we should consider otherwise?
Well, I mean, we're building a pergola. It does go to we have permission from the neighbor. The pergola is just open with wood structure, but it is going to go right to the property line because of the variance of where it is. I don't, with the homeowner that is running to his with that personal, he has like an 8 or 10 foot fence, and it's just going to be running right to that. Okay.
Okay.
And it's an open structure, so it's not having water shoot out over it.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I not get his name and address? Your name and address?
Robert, do it.
Your address?
856 Nassau Drive,
Okay.
Mobile, Alabama.
Got his name, I didn't get the address.
Sorry.
We're kind of getting back in the swing.
They know me.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
Okay. A question for you, could you not shorten the end of the pergola so that it would not extend?
If you look at it, there's not, I'm gonna say no. No, it's about 12 foot, isn't that right, Jeff? I think it's 12 foot.
So,
There's a fireplace there, and so it's got to be on that little area there, okay? Because we'll have to put posts up and build a structure to hold it.
okay, so how far beyond the post structure does it extend?
It's gonna be about 1.5 feet.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
I just question what, because normally on these, we would require, if the board should choose, we always put downspouts and gutters,
But it's all open.
Yeah, it's all open, so.
Right. No, I would agree, and I would make sure that they had a gutter if it was enclosed.
Yeah, it's not that type of structure.
Right.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant's rep? Okay. All right. Does your client wish to speak at this time? Do you have anything to add?
You got anything to add?
Oh, okay. Is there anyone here in the audience, sir, if you'll have a seat, anyone here in the audience either in support or opposition to the application? Okay, for the record, we have none. All right, well, I guess that'll conclude our public hearing on this one. If you'll have a seat, sir. Staff's recommended for denial. The applicant's rep has stated that based on the design and I guess the approval of the adjacent neighbor. Do we have that in writing? Did you have that in writing or anything for the staff? Okay. And that the hardship's based on some current landscaping or other items that are on the property. All right, Chair, entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And I will vote in opposition, but your motion, the variance has been approved. All right, we're on applications 6431, 3924. This is 960 South Lawrence Street. Kind of like the Price is Right. Come on down. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Your name and address for the record, so I don't get in trouble again.
My name is Frankie Smith. My address is 3672 Laurel Cherry Court. That's Mobile, Alabama, 36618.
Okay, I have a note here that the staff's recommending this application be held over to the January 10th meeting to allow certified survey and site plan for review. Looks like you may have those with you today.
No, sir, this is just the design that I did on the property. I talked with the staff, some of the young guys upstairs, and they were saying that it would probably go better if I had a certified land survey. And I was telling them that I personally didn't think it would need one because of what we were requesting. It was such a small adjustment that I thought maybe that we could get by without it's only 13 feet of property we're talking about. And to pay for a professional land survey to cover like 13 feet, I thought that was a little excessive, and I just wanted to get an opportunity to express that today.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just explain why staff made that recommendation. If you look at the vicinity map, this is based on the tax assessor's parcel information, and you can see the configuration of the site. It's, I guess you could best describe it, I wasn't great at geometry, trapezoidal. It's not a square, it's not a rectangle. There is not a right angle, except maybe right there on the property. In looking at the tax assessor information, bless you, the dimension along the Lawrence Street side is 21 to 25 feet. Now, this is the applicant's site plan that was submitted, and it appears that the size of the building, when we measured it based on the aerial photography, is roughly correct. It's about 30 by 17. This is your 17-foot dimension, and based on this dimension here, there's only 3 feet left. And then you have 30 feet going this way, and I'm very concerned that there's not enough property there for the proposed addition. You can see the sidewalk here. Yes, and this is it here. I believe when there was some reconfiguration in this area, there could have been additional right-of-way obtained, and so the property is actually smaller than thought. So based on these factors, we really need a survey to make sure, while the board can consider a variance to have it closer to the property line, we need to make sure it's staying on the property.
Okay. Go ahead.
Is there a response from the applicant on that statement?
Yes, sir. My only response to what you said is that's correct. And the reason I was trying to get around the actual survey, I spent 40 years working for the Department of Transportation as a surveyor, but when you work for the Department of Transportation, we're not licensed. So when I get out there and pull the thing based on the reading from the deed, we got enough room on that particular side to make the addition that we wanted to make. And if I can further state, on the east side of the building, we don't own anything over there. You know, it's just the property line's right up to the building. We don't have any other way to go. That's why we're requesting a variance, because of, like I said, the awkward skew and the way the building is actually setting in there. If the original survey and property had been taken and then set square, it wouldn't be a problem. We could easily have enough room. If you look at the front side of the building, based on the skew, from the back of curve to the front side of the building, we got about close to 30 feet over to the back of curve, but it's just the way it's setting there is so awkward. But at the same time, I can't think of anything else would be done with the property, but to allow, that 6 foot, it's just a sidewalk there, and it's bunch of businesses out in the area. There's nothing else out there but us.
Okay, Ms. Pappas, you had something?
Well, I mean, he's provided dimensions, but that is to the curb. It's not to the property line. We need some property line dimensions because that's where setbacks are measured from.
If I could add, in this area, this is all part or close to not just the bridge, but also the container port and everything that's going on down there. And there's a lot more right-of-ways are being taken for commercial traffic in the future. And we really need to know where that right-of-way is on South Carolina Street. It's the sidewalk that she showed is in the right-of-way, and the drawing he has with the addition is just a few feet from that sidewalk. So we really need to know where the right-of-way is.
Sir, you understand with your experience with, especially with
Yes.
DOT, that
Absolutely.
having those particular
Yeah.
parameters is important.
Right.
All right, any other questions of the board for the applicant?
Yeah, I do have one.
Yes.
The driveway side, that's not your part of your property?
The driveway side of that right here belongs to a family called the Cobins, and it's an air property. We contacted them. They weren't interested in selling it at all. If I could say something about the access points, South Carolina was redesigned two-way traffic. I mean, you got 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes coming south with a median there. So, I mean, it's capable of handling any large traffic going out right now as it stands. And based on the size of the property, the distance from the building over to the edge of the back of curb, we wouldn't have enough property for the department, city of Mobile, or anybody else to add another lane in there. You can't do it. We're both locked up there. So if the city would take it, they would probably have to take the whole building just to add anything in there. We just got one little small building, awkward piece of property, and we're just trying to get some relief here.
Okay. All right, once again, any other questions of the board? Okay, the staff's recommended for holdover. Is there anyone here either in support or opposition to the application today? Okay, this will conclude our public hearing. So the question for you, Mr. Smith, is that would you wish for us to proceed, or would you be willing to the holdover and to work with staff regarding any survey and site plans? Because it's recommended for holdover at this point.
Yes, I understand. I've talked to a couple of surveyors, just a guess, and the cost is pretty high. What they want to do the survey, and like I said, it's just a small business, and the overhead is not going to allow for me to have a full-blown survey done for just that small side. I mean, it's no reason to run a survey on the east side because the property comes right up to next to the building. I don't have the money to forward a full-blown survey for something that all we want to do is just add 6 foot to the building.
Okay. All right, so you wish for us to proceed today and not
Yes, sir.
have a holdover, okay? All right, well, if you'll have a seat, I guess we'll call for a vote. That'll conclude our public hearing once again. Chair entertain a motion for this particular application.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sympathetic to, what the applicant said, but we cannot make a decision, I think, based on the financial aspect of it. And I do think that you have to define those boundaries in order to be able to, for us to accurately make a decision in granting a variance or not. So I was fully prepared to hold it over, but I'm not prepared to approve it without a survey. So that being said, I would recommend for denial.
Second.
Have a motion to deny and a second. Anyone else have any other comments of the board? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
I vote to deny the motion. How many voted in support of the motion? Yes. So we had 3, so the motion failed. So let's try a new motion. How about a motion to hold over to the January 10th to give the applicant time to provide the survey and site plan as requested by staff? I make that motion.
I motion to accept that.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. You have until the next meeting to provide site plans if you wish to proceed. All right, thank you. All right, we're on applications. Sir, if you get with them later. January 10th. All right, have a good day, sir. Thank you. Application 6432, 1319. This is regarding 3650 Old Shell Road. Is the applicant present? If you'll come down to the podium, sir. Good afternoon. Your name and address?
Jeff Quinelli, 3751 Shipes Lane. I believe that they recommended to hold this over because I'm thinking that the architect made a mistake on how many people it was supposed to be sent to. I think he sent it to 84, and I think there was more than that. So I think that I'm not sure, I wasn't involved on whose fault it was.
You're in agreement with the holdover to allow the public notice?
Oh, most definitely.
Yes, okay. All right, for the sake of the board, was there anyone here in either support or opposition to this application? Okay, that'll conclude the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, there, you do have a comment from one of the nearby property owners
Yes.
expressing concerns.
Okay, and it's marked number 5 with the packets. Okay, the staff's recommended for holdover and the applicant's in agreement. That'll conclude our public hearing. Chair, entertain a motion. I have a motion to the holdover. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, application 6433, 1101 Dolphin Street. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Name and address for the record.
David Schumer, 3213 Midtown Park South.
Okay, and kind of got a list of things, but the staff's recommended approval, and then there were some conditions. Have you reviewed those?
Yes, and the trigger for us to request the variance was the drive-through. That's a primary component of the new development to convert it to a restaurant or provide, some kind of food service. So we would potentially withdraw the application if that is something that's not requested, because if it falls back to a retail, then all the other nonconformities would be corrected. I mean, with the parking would change ratios to provide the parking, and then all the other, not the loading zone and the maneuvering space, are existing nonconformities that I think would be able to remain, if I'm not mistaken.
You could have the, you could have the restaurant. It was simply that the staff recommended removal of the drive-through and then the additional parking needed to make the restaurant ratio be provided back here.
Yeah, that extra parking, there's not enough room to meet the city's parking requirements back there by about 2 feet of width in order to get the drive aisle and the angled parking.
We would be willing, it was our intention that that be part of the maneuvering request.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we were trying to save as much green space as possible, especially adjacent to that is where the residential buffer is. But and we still may be, I think, short one or two parking spots if we were to add that, but the drive-through would be a requirement, or what we, our intent is for the requirement. I'm not sure how to move forward with, I've never been recommended for approval with one of the items that we want excluded. Is if we can fit enough parking back there, if I can try to squeeze 4 parking spots back there, can the drive-through remain?
Well,
Let me ask a question. How many spaces will they be short if they maintain the drive-through?
they are required 12, only 8 are provided, so they would be short 4.
Okay, and do you think you could fit the other 4 within that green space?
I can, but they will not meet the city's, the ordinance's parking standards for depth and width. And
I see.
But that is with the drive-through?
yes,
How about without?
the drive-through is still the width of a drive lane that the city requires, the 14 feet.
So the drive-through is kind of his primary issue, I think.
Yeah,
what I
I
understand.
mean, the city doesn't have currently a compact parking spot that typically allows for a reduced depth, because that's where the issue is. We don't have, you're supposed to have 20 feet from perpendicular for the parking, even on an angled, and then 14 more feet.
Let me ask you this question. If you were to obtain like 2 that are parallel to the drive-through, instead of the additional 4 that's required, right? Is that they're short 4 if they keep the drive. So if he had 2 parallel to the drive-through that were within that green space, he would be short 2 in total.
Can there be parking in the setback?
I don't know. Where's his grass area? Down there, if he had 2 parallel to the drive-through.
I mean, we could put a couple parallels there, and then where Ms. Pappas was over there.
Anyway, I'm just giving
We
options.
we could put another one. There would be room for one on that. There's not quite enough to meet the city standards, because currently it is marked with that open space for cars to be parked perpendicular to the road. But again, those don't meet the depth of the city's standard, so I can't put them on the site plan as being.
From the dumpster with screening to where the 25-foot setback line is marked, you could not get 2 spaces within there?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to describe. I'm sorry.
And we could get a third where Margaret was pointing,
Okay,
but we'd still be short at least the one.
okay. Were you in agreement with all other conditions?
Yeah, all the other conditions were fine.
Okay.
It was the drive-through that was the main.
Yeah. Now, do we have any other questions of the board?
I just have one. Is there an identified use already for this, or is it something that you're just trying to get the building in a condition to lease to somebody similar?
He's here and he can speak more on that. I believe he's fielded some interest since he's had the building for multiple different types of uses. And this is a use that's this is a up and coming kind of little intersection here with Hallett and Dolphin Street. And it's a fitting community use rather than some of the other retail type uses that he's been approached with. So that's why we're going there. I don't think he has a specific tenant in mind.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Margaret, it seems, now, there's current asphalt and parking spaces in the setback. That's a building setback. But between the proposed asphalt driveway and the property line to the block wall to the south, looks to me like there's plenty of spaces in there for at least 4 spaces.
Yes.
Straight in.
Yes, but I believe what Mr. Schumer was saying is if you have a perpendicular space, the depth that is perceived to be there isn't as great as what you think. For instance, in short, there's not room for your drive aisle and then an 18-foot deep
Well, is the drive
parking
aisle not the
space.
proposed drive-through asphalt? from a practical standpoint?
The city's standard is that even at angled parking, you have 20 feet from one end to the other.
Okay.
And so you have 20 feet there, and then 14 feet is a drive aisle. We don't have
But
34 feet.
But that's subject to a variance as well, is it not?
That is correct.
Okay, so we could approve 4 space, and what's wrong with the setback area?
You can have parking in the setback.
Well, hell, there's plenty of room in there for 4 spaces, and one of them may be a little short, but if we have the authority to grant that as a variance, then it's a moot point.
Correct. If that's what I was, some cities or areas have ordinances that provide for a compact parking spot,
Yeah.
which is a smaller car, which instead of 20 feet,
That makes a lot more sense
it would be
than to just
16
do
feet.
two parallels to me, because I'm concerned about it simply because, I'm a stakeholder in the area as well. And I'm concerned about not having a specific use, as Mr. Milling is, but I would also be concerned that there is not enough parking. And I think it would not be wise, from my perspective, for the board to approve a non-existing use, something that we already know is going to be a traffic or a parking problem. So if the board were inclined to grant the variance for the use, then it would make sense to me for us to provide as much parking as we possibly can.
We
That's the way
tried.
I feel about it.
We tried to get as much parking as we could. It just, I'm governed by the.
I understand.
Don't worry, yeah, no,
But
if
you're
we
here
could-
for relief, and
Correct.
that's something that we could possibly do.
We could put 4, maybe more back there, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the owner would like as much as he can as
I'd
well.
like to hear from the owner about it after we get finished talking, so,
Yeah.
I would too.
thank you.
Okay. All right, any other question for Mr. Schumer? All right, owner, if you wish to speak? Your name and address again.
Jeff Quinelli, 3751 Chipes Lane.
I would have saved you a trip back up.
That's okay.
If I knew you were involved in this application.
Can I show you guys kind of what we're looking at doing there? Is that something we could?
Well, we had a couple of questions, starting
Sure.
with Mr. Milling. You have any potential use in mind?
Well, we're trying to lure, something like a coffee shop or a small bakery, something like that would be good for the area. And just like they said, there was a lot of parking restrictions, and you guys were making comments about possibly giving us a variance to add more parking. I'm all for that. It's just that, when we were trying to put the plan together, given the current restrictions, without special approval, we just kept getting no, 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 no. So if you guys are gonna give us that kind of relief, we'll put as many as you'll let us put there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on a personal note, I've been waiting for something decent to happen there for a long time.
Yeah, it's in desperate need of
It's
an
in
upgrade.
desperate need, and I figured you'd do something with it eventually and not have it as a little
And that's
convenience
the thing,
store.
I want it to be something that would be good for the neighborhood, and I'd be proud to own. I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to.
and if you do what you're proposing, you're gonna spend significant money,
That's right.
so.
Yeah. Just most of the time when the guys call, but even the small bakery that called me and 3 coffee shops, they all want to drive through.
Yeah, I
They
understand.
zero interest without one.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Davis had a
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that I'm in agreement with what Mr. Metcalf is saying here, because I've watched this place for quite some time, and it's open, close, in, out, and something viable needs to happen there.
But we're going to try to make it as nice as possible with you guys' help as well.
Okay. Any other questions of the board for the owner? All right. Might just have a seat and save you a trip up
Yes,
and
sir.
back in case there's anything else that comes up. All right, do we have anyone here, it's in support or opposition? How about in support? Okay, in opposition? Okay, we allow, you're in support? Okay, one more. We allow 4 in support and 4 in opposition. By the way, you get 5 minutes. I didn't cover that in the rules earlier. Your name and address?
Taylor Atchison, 1108 Dolphin Street, and I'm here as a neighbor across the street at 1108 Dolphin Street, 1100 Dolphin Street, and 1060 Dolphin. Wanted to put my support behind Mr. Quinelli. Like many of you on the board have mentioned, this property has been a struggle for a long time. when it was a C-store, it was a constant place for crime and different things. There was cops there all the time, and you know, the drive-through may not be the perfect thing in a historic neighborhood like this, but I think it's a negotiation we should be willing to deal with the developer in hopes of getting this property back on as an active building in the neighborhood and a contributor to the community.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, those in opposition, you'll come down one at a time, and then we'll,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
As they're making their way to the podium, I just need to bring to the attention of the board, you do have an email in opposition from Ms. Rebecca Ferguson.
okay. All right, your name and address, please.
Rachel Aune, A-U-N-E, 352 South Ann Street, Mobile, Alabama, 36604. I just have a quick question. So the drive-through is going to be going, obviously, like on Dolphin Street. My one issue is, let's just say the coffee shop does, or whatever it's going to be, does awesome. And like Fuzakli's is, and the issue with Fuzakli's and airport is that the traffic gets so bad right there. It's caused wrecks because you can't see. What if that happens on Dolphin Street? You know, that's not going to be a good thing if cars are just lined up on Dolphin Street. You know, Yellowhammer had that similar issue recently on their side of Dolphin Street where they had to kind of change how they're doing their drive-through because, like, if the drive-through is not large enough and you're busy, cars are going to be parked on the main road waiting to order. So that's just my, like, question, I guess.
Okay, we'll give the applicant an opportunity for rebuttal or to address your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next, please. Your name and address.
I'm Melissa King, and I'm 8 South Hallett Street, so I'm actually 2 doors down.
Okay.
And we have met with other neighbors, and I have also gotten permission from the Chings, who reside at 12 South Hallett Street, Laura Farmer, who resides at 9 South Hallett Street, and the Rains, who reside at 11 South Hallett Street, and all the neighbors are in opposition to this. We do not want a drive-through on our corner. We already have enough traffic on the street. We at one point had asked for a speed bump in our road, and we were told that because the fire trucks have to use our street in and out, that would not be possible.
Okay.
We do not want customers parallel parking in front of our homes. We already use those. The street is very narrow. It's just not going to be a good thing for the neighborhood at all.
Yes, Mr. Davis.
What would the neighbors like to see there? Because
Well, actually,
I'm not quite finished yet.
Well, I was going to
Let him finish.
What would the neighbors like there? Because of the fact that there's been a lot of inconsistency in that location, and I don't know if it has to do with the neighborhood not wanting anything there. I understand a few blocks down there is the School of Math and Science, and I noticed those students are doing a lot of walking, trying to go to.
Well, we don't have any problem with the coffee shop. We have trouble with the drive-through.
So if they didn't have the drive-through, then the neighbors.
I think they would be okay with it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is the opposition to a drive-through the queuing, or is it noise and time?
Both, I believe. I think it's going to be also the fact that the street is already extremely busy in the morning, and having people exit that way, either to Government or to Dolphin Street, is going to create issues.
Margaret, put it back to the other side. Here. Yeah.
How much space is there between the, Jeff, I guess, or
Well,
between the order board and the street? You have any idea?
I'm going to estimate David Schumer, the engineer, may be able to give a better estimation, but based on the fact you have 97 feet from here to here, you're
From where to where?
probably
I can't see.
from the front 97 feet along this property line from Dolphin.
Where's the rest of the drawing?
I beg your pardon?
We're looking at the west boundary line, and
And then
it's 97 feet
Okay.
in depth, and you see the order station 60% of the way through.
Yeah. No, I meant from the order station to Hallett.
well, you have
No, I was talking about just because they order there, but they also have to pull up to a window.
Correct.
Or is, okay, and where's the window? Is the window, what part of the building is the window on, or do we know? Is it on the west end, the east end?
Ma'am, if you'll step to the side so he can answer just for a second.
The order window would be close to where the setback line comes through, and there are the spots, enough queuing distances that meet the city's ordinance. The city requires one full space beyond the order window, and then 3 spaces from the order window, or from the pickup window, there's 1 space. From the pickup window to the order window, there's 3 spaces, and then from the order window to the street is 3 spaces. That is what is required by the city's current requirement.
What was that, 9?
7 total.
7 total. From the pickup window to?
From the street.
From the street to the pickup window?
From the street to the street.
Okay.
All right. If you'll have a seat again. Thank you.
All right. And I understand what you're talking about.
Okay. Ma'am, did you have any other comments? I didn't want you to.
Well,
leave
the
it
email
out.
comment that came in is actually from the house that abuts the property. So, I mean, the other concern we have is if it does get approved for a drive-through, and we're being told it's going to be a coffee shop, but, wants to prevent something else from going in that would not be as attractive to the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
On the speaker again, on the speaker, please.
I think she has he has another question for you.
Yes, sir.
I see this from Ms. Ferguson. Now, she's just one person on Hallett Street, and then you.
Everybody else was working.
Okay, allow me please to finish. This is one person. Normally, when it's this kind of opposition in the community, some kind of petition would come before us saying that these number of people are in opposition, not disputing you, but I'm just talking about what normally happens. And also, Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned if traffic engineering has something to say about the concerns here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it.
There are a lot of assumptions that you can kind of draw conclusions about when it comes to drive-throughs. It's really hard to predict what people are going to do. They are displaying that they're meeting the zoning ordinance as they've described with the requirements for the spaces before, between, and after the order stations and the pickup windows. I like to think that people drive like me, but they don't. So it's very possible people are going to stop in Dolphin Street for chicken fingers, for coffee, for donuts, for laundry, who knows. I don't know how we can hold them to more stringent requirements. Usually the developments that know they're going to have long queues plan for it, or they're coming back now and making corrections to work it out so they can queue better and not be as disruptive to the road network.
Okay.
Hello.
Name and address.
Matt Anderson, 13 South Hallett Street. So what we got over here is a business at the intersection of the Hallett Highway and Dolphin Street. Hallett is the first street when you get on the west side of Broad that connects Spring Hill to Government. And we just have a tremendous amount of traffic. I think it's been validated since we've had Broad Street closed. We had to close Hallett Street at Caroline because of the amount of, people say cut through. I mean, those folks pay taxes on that street too, but just the amount of, the volume is pretty considerable. I don't personally have anything against a coffee shop, even if it's got a drive-through. I just know that because I've lived next to restaurants with drive-throughs before, I know how loud they can get. So I would just appreciate the opportunity to have a meeting with the developer to talk about some remediative measures, not trying to, make the development go broke or anything, but just those little order speakers where you place your order, those things get loud as hell. I mean, they'll penetrate through multiple walls, and it sounds like a joke, but it's not. I mean, those things are irritating, and I don't know what the operating hours are going to be. We haven't really had any communications with the developer. I mean, maybe he's talked to other people on the street, but if there was any way we could get a little bit of a buffer so we could communicate with them. At the Planning Commission, we often have the developer talk to the neighborhood. I think it would be useful if we could do that too.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Board? So you're recommending a holdover to allow time for the neighborhood to maybe work with the developer a little bit more?
Yeah, if everyone's amicable to that, that'd be great.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
Do we have anyone else in the audience that likes or wishes at this time to speak in opposition? Okay. You have 2 minutes for rebuttal and to address their concerns.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the importance of the drive-through to the development as a whole, but I did talk after reading the staff report with the statement of frequent issues with drive-throughs adjacent to residential, and we just got thinking of what those issues could possibly be. We thought noise as an obvious, and then light from like headlights or something early in the morning. And the owner's willing to replace or put up like an 8-foot fence with a vegetative buffer, although the parking would have to get reduced a little bit to try to create a greater buffer between that residence to the south and this site as an abatement for that, or any type of abatement that could fit in that space that the city would deem.
The other thing I always think about with these type of developments is that dumpster being serviced, the hours and the noise it makes.
It's hard to hear.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but I always try to be considerate of that. All right, well, as you hear, some of those in opposition would like the opportunity to meet with you or the client, the owner. Would you be willing to consider a holdover if that would give some time to maybe address some of their concerns?
I'll let him speak to that, if that's all right.
I don't necessarily want to see another application next month, but sometimes that's the best thing.
It seems that one of the biggest things is noise, and anytime you have a commercial development that's near residential is noise. Now, I'd like for you guys to take note that the two properties where the order are both commercial pieces of property. The two before you get to this property going west are both commercial. And where that's located is on the commercial side, not on the residential side. Now, we had plans the whole time as far as noise goes, the best way, because obviously you want the neighborhood to be a part of what you're doing on some level, because they're the ones that drink coffee, show up, buy things, all that. You don't want a thing that everybody bands against you and hates you. So our thought was there's a block wall that's about this high, and you can't add anything to it because it's just it's dismembered, it's terrible. So what we were going to do is put in an 8-foot privacy fence, and if we could, put in a evergreen buffer of, maybe like Italian cypress trees that don't get so wide, but they get tall to add relief for the parking, to create a buffer, to make it as quiet as you can. Outside of that being a business, I don't know of too much more you can do to make things quiet. And as far as the traffic, well, I guess on some level you have to assume that you don't know if the business that's going to go there is going to produce the kind of traffic that they're talking about. And everybody that likes to bring up Yellowhammer, well, with what we're doing, if let's just assume that a coffee spot goes there, if the drive-through is full, well, there's 10 more spots for them to pull up and park and get out and go get coffee versus back out. I don't know about you guys, but if there's 8 people in front of me, I'm gonna pull up to the front door and go get my coffee.
Or not.
So, and at Yellowhammer, you don't get that opportunity to do that, the one that everybody likes to fuss about. So I'd like for you guys to take into consideration that there's only so much you can do to buffer a residence next to a commercial piece, which is which is any project's got a residence next to it. I've never heard of commercial on commercial forever and ever and ever, no residence. So I think an 8-foot fence and some sort of evergreen was, if you guys could come up with something, but I think that's pretty relevant without having to build some 15-foot block wall that costs more than the whole building's worth to begin with. Because as you can see by the building, whatever we do, if it's just up to any kind of codes now, would be a massive upgrade to what's there. And in order to lure coffee shops and some of the bakeries, they just want a drive-through. And funny, everybody wants the coffee shop because it's good for the neighborhood. And most of them aren't playing music till midnight and all that kind of stuff. And I believe the historic district dictates how long businesses can be open in that area. I'm pretty sure.
What's the square footage of the building?
Sir?
Square footage of the building?
1,200.
Okay.
I mean, it's...
Okay, any further questions for the owner?
I guess getting back to the original question, are you open to a holdover, or do you want us to vote on it today?
I mean, I would rather you vote if you're in approval of it, but if you're not going to approve it, I would withdraw the whole thing.
Well, I'll just tell you, my concern, just being upfront with you, is I agree with Taylor as far as negotiations, and you have old buildings that are built and put into an area, but I also think that not having a specific use, for me as a board member, just to approve a drive-through, and not really know what kind of use that's going to be, to me just seems like it leaves a big question mark out there of, do we create a Yellowhammer type situation or something like that? I mean, I know you say what you might do, but stupidity of people just is mind-boggling to me sometimes. I drive by some of those places, that's my concern. So just from my standpoint, I'm not speaking for anybody else on the board, I'd have a real hard time approving it today with a drive-through with an unknown use. Even, with your assurances of what you would do to potentially buffer it, it still doesn't assure that it's not going to start, queuing out into Dolphin Street. And Jeff, I applaud you. I mean, the things you've done and the buildings, that you've fixed up and stuff, I think the ability to do that here needs to be done. But I just think it needs to be done in such a way that it does not negatively impact the neighbors as much as possible. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Jeff, I agree with Jeremy. And I think that, you've got a reputation, and that didn't sound real good, did it? You've got a reputation. No, and you got a lot of people to answer for it, too, in the community, and you don't want to do anything stupid either. No. And I understand that. And again, I have a home in the area, but my personal feeling is you're jumping the gun a little bit. I think you're jumping the gun a little bit. If I were advising you, I'd advise you to withdraw the application, simply because I think that the board's in support of you, generally speaking. I am. But I think to Jeremy's point, if you came to us with more specifics,
right,
and a more specific use, letter of intent or a stated intent from a tenant, and come to us with saying that we will put up an 8-foot fence with buffer. We're willing to shut down the order window or the drive-up panel at dark. Okay, just some ideas with a list of things that, instead of just chatting about it, a list of things that you've thought about and you've talked to your prospective tenant about, and then come to us with a more defined set of plans, and I think you'd get a lot better reception. But I think you do have support in general. You certainly have it from me.
Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Golden?
No, I mean, my comment would be, thanks for fixing the building.
Well, that kind of all remains to be seen as well.
And I can agree with it.
I mean, from a financial standpoint, if it's not beneficial, it can be rented like it is. And so you have to kind of weigh whether, hey, do I want to go spend this extra money if I can't get return on your investment? So there's always the possibility of that as well. So that's why we wanted to, I mean, I don't have a problem with it holding over. Gosh, I'm going to be here next time anyway. But as far as, and I know a lot of times when people develop things, they oftentimes will go get their tenant and they stick them in there. Well, sometimes I've kind of done things a little different. I've generally just fixed something up, and it's amazing that I've never had a problem renting anything. So most people aren't willing to do that because they're not willing to spend the money. And what I'm trying to do in this area is spend the money and make it nice. And there is some truth to the fact that I can't dictate what's going to be there. But what I can do is make sure it's good for the neighborhood, and the building gets improved, and the grounds get improved, and we do everything we can to protect any kind of noise from disrupting the people nearby. I can't make the place any bigger, or I would.
And I think that's why it seems like to me that it would be prudent to meet with the neighborhood. I mean, they're the stakeholders there in that area, and so why not hold it over, have a meeting with them, you know, be able to have that discussion and address any additional concerns.
I don't mind that at all. The last time we asked for one thing, I think on this piece was certificate of appropriateness. I don't think anybody even showed up. So, yeah, well, no, that's what I mean. I had no idea that anybody was opposed to anything about any of it. Now, obviously, it sounds like to me that there's two issues that most of the people are concerned about. One is noise, which I stated that I'd be willing to do those things, which I think is about all you can do. And the other is about whether a drive-through, they want that or not. You know, you can't,
How you handling the queuing and all that.
Yeah, as far as the city requirements are concerned, it does meet those. The drive-through does. So it's not like we're asking for special permission about the drive-through part. It does meet the city requirements.
Well, I think we're at this point, if you and Mr. Schumer wish to hold this over, or do you wish to proceed with a vote of the board based on the staff's recommendations with some of the discussion of that? Or you want to withdraw? You know, it's your decision at this point.
If you're holding it over, what are we holding it over for exactly? Is that for me to go find a tenant before the next time we meet?
Well, I think
I'm asking,
yeah, that's a legitimate question. One is to talk to the neighborhood,
right,
see if you can appease some of their concerns.
Sure.
Two is if by chance, I guess you could do find a tenant.
Man, that'd be great if you guys know about one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to spend a little money and make it nicer.
Yeah. Was there any other?
I'd be glad to meet with the neighbors. I don't mind that at all.
Mr. Chairman, I think
yes,
a little.
Mr. Metcalf, excuse me. Go ahead.
Yes. If what he says is right about the drive-through, why is that part of the application?
Basically, what we need, and you know, all of this discussion today's just proved the point. We need a site plan that shows so that we have dimensions and layouts. So the drive-through is shown, sort of. There's no dimension shown on the width.
That's what you do in your 30 days.
I would like to see, from a staff perspective, parking in that area dimensioned and laid out as well.
And the drive area's dimensioned, and I'd also like to see where the pickup window would be.
Yes.
And dimensions on that to the street.
Yes, we can go ahead and request that the queuing spaces be shown.
Yeah, and show the cars.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That pretty clear as
we can do that.
Okay. So, as the applicant, are you willing to hold it over to work out those details?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would just add, I do think it would be important to share that with the neighbors.
Before the meeting.
Before the meeting.
How do I go about, I mean, I know there's.
If you can talk to her.
I'd get her number. Jeff, I'd get her number before you leave. No, because she's the one that showed up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and coordinate with her.
All right. We appreciate your time. And
He's got a
those of you that
reputation.
came today. Chair, the applicant's in agreement for requesting a holdover. Chair, entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair, for a holdover.
Okay, I have a holdover till the next meeting.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all that came today for your time on that. All right, are we okay with continuing with the meeting? Anybody need a break? No, okay. Well, I'm asking for these people. In the past, we've had to take a break at a certain point. All right, we're on application 6434, is that correct? Number 7? Okay. And 750 Pope Court, is the applicant here?
Up top.
Yes.
Ready to mic.
Ms. White? Okay, we need a mic up there. If you would, if. Okay. Well, as you see, we have questions. So, good afternoon. Your name and address for the record.
Rhoda White, 7050 Pope Court.
Okay, and your application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Are you in agreement with the staff's recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant or staff? And this is a rare one. I don't remember ever staff recommending approval of a mobile home.
Did you have one last meeting, or was that planning commission?
It was Planning Commission, and it was for this particular application.
Okay. I mean, I've been on this board a long time, and I don't remember ever.
Yeah, there are mobile homes in
Yes,
this area.
I see that in the site plan and in the pictures. All right. You're in agreement with staff recommendations. Is there anyone here today either in support or opposition to this application? Okay, that concludes our public hearing on this application. You can have a seat. As stated, the applicant is in agreement with staff's recommendations, subject to the conditions listed. Chair, entertain a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Subject to staff's.
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Well, I won't be able to say I've never seen one before after that. All right, number 8, 6435. This is 407 and 409 Pine Hill Drive. And I think, Mr. Bird, you're representing the owner.
Come on up.
Okay.
Jerry Bird, Bird Surveying Company, here with
Address?
the applicant,
Address?
2609 Halls Mill Road, Mobile, Alabama, 36606.
And you can go ahead and give your name and address as well.
Sarah Neverdahl, 407 Pine Hill Drive and 409, which are my lots.
All right. The staff's recommended approval, subject to the conditions. Are you in agreement with those?
Oh, yes, we are in agreement with approval, although I would like to revise number 2 condition.
Okay, so you're not totally in agreement.
Not totally.
All right, so
Well, if you had written it like I
please
wanted it, I
explain
wouldn't.
or
Okay.
clarify.
It's her application is not concerning driveway or access. Would like to alter that number 2 to start out by just saying site is limited to existing drive and any changes to be approved by traffic engineer and
Coordination with traffic.
yeah, right.
Okay.
That would be the only thing.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant or the representative? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Obviously, we have a recommendation. Do we have anyone in opposition? All right.
They're all in favor.
Yeah,
She brought her cheering squad with her.
So you're all in support? Yes. Okay. Is there anyone in opposition today that's here? You must have brought all your customers.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just for the record, you do have correspondence at your places regarding this application. All of those as well are in support.
Okay. You got some people from Satsuma and everywhere. All right. Any questions of the board once again? For the record, we have multiple people in support and no one at this time in opposition. All right. I guess that'll conclude our public hearing on this application. If you can have a seat for a moment. Oh, I do have a question before we proceed. So my understanding, you've already been providing this service to some extent?
Yes, sir.
How many are you currently boarding or servicing?
Like the total number of dogs or just at one time?
Yeah, on a daily basis.
The grooming has more coming in, but the boarding, I would say at most I would have 3 dogs during the week. Holidays is where I have the most dogs, which I only board maybe like 6. So it's
Okay.
a small facility.
All right, are any of you neighbors? Okay, and you don't have any problems? Okay.
No problem. I'm within 300 feet. I can hear the dog park at Public Safety Memorial Park. I can hear
Yeah. My only concern was approving this, and those individuals could not be here today because they worked or something, and that might create a hardship for them. So,
And
all
I think
right.
a few of those letters have some people that live near me as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure you had good neighbors. Yes. All right, this concludes the public hearing on this application. The applicant's in agreement with staff recommendation with the caveat that there's coordination with traffic engineering for the drive.
Driveway, yes.
Yes. Okay. Chair, entertain a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Subject-
So move, subject to staff
And
recommendation.
coordination with traffic engineering.
And coordination with traffic.
Okay, I have a motion to approve, subject to staff's conditions and coordination with traffic engineering. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We don't get those very often.
They're all gonna be.
All right, we're going to give you a minute or two to exit.
I thought it was nice. I was gonna wear this white shirt.
All right, we're on application 6436, 63.
You got me again.
We're going to give everyone an opportunity to exit. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day. All right, this is application 6436, 6372, 1011. And it's St. John Deliverance Temple. And Mr. Bird, you're the agent again, and you brought your client, I think.
I did.
So your name and address again for the record.
Jerry Bird, Bird Surveying Company, 2609 Halls Mill Road, Mobile.
And sir, your name and address.
Terrence Perkins, 2451 Friar Lane, Mobile, Alabama, 36605.
And your application is recommended for approval as well. Are you in agreement with the staff recommendations and conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have any questions of the board for the applicant? Okay, and I can easily say we have no one either in support or opposition in the audience. Therefore, that'll conclude our public hearing on this application. And with that, Chair will entertain a motion. Okay, I have a motion to approve, subject to staff recommendations. Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
do we have any other business for the board while we're all present today? Mr. Anderson or Ms. Pappas? Okay, and this is our last meeting of the year. And, oh, let me make sure we have our new board member, Mr. Carroll. I hope everyone has had the opportunity to meet with him. And at some point in the future, we'll do a little orientation for our new members.
Yes.
I think you got a good taste of what we face sometimes.
It was a
Usually we
buffet.
have more people in opposition. That's the first I've seen that many in support, so, yeah. So that makes it easier. When you got a lot of people in opposition, it's a lot more difficult because you want to obviously take their concerns as well. With that, I would say we're concluded or ending our meeting for today. Have a good day. No, that's a good first experience.